Hello, geometry students. Today during class, we talked about the trigonometric functions for a right triangle. And we learned sine of an angle is equal to the side opposite over the hypotenuse. We learned cosine of an angle is the side equal to the side adjacent over hypotenuse. And our last one is tangent of theta. The ratio tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. And then we learned so, ka, toa, to help us remember that. And so during this video, we're going to cover how to find angles and sides using the right triangle trigonometry. Let's take a look at our first example. Use a special right triangle to express each trigonometric ratio as a fraction and as a decimal to the nearest hundredths. So the first problem is asking us to work with sine 30 degrees. So what I need in this problem is I need a 30-degree angle in my right triangle. This is my 30-degree angle. This is my 60-degree angle. And I have a right angle. Now remember, the 30, 60, 90 formulas and the relationships actually came from an equilateral triangle. I'm going to make this 1. Then this whole thing across is 2. All sides are equal, so this hypotenuse is 2. And then we discovered that this was 3 root 3. So now I need to write the trigonometric ratio for the sine of 30. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So I'm going to find my 30-degree angle. I'm going to look for the side opposite of the 30-degree angle, which is 1. And I'm going to look for my hypotenuse, which is 2. So the sine of 30 degrees, that ratio is 1/2. And then they also are asking me to write that as a decimal point to the nearest hundredths, which would be 5/10 or 0.5. Let's take a look at example number 2. This time I'm working with cosine of 45. So I need my 45, 45, 90 triangle. Remember, the legs are 1 and 1, and the hypotenuse is root 2. This time I'm working with cosine of 45. And cosine is ka, adjacent, over hypotenuse. Oh, there's two 45-degree angles, so you can use either one. I'm going to look at the 45-degree angle. I'm going to go adjacent, which is 1. Hypotenuse is root 2. So my cosine of 45, the ratio is 1 over root 2. Now, this is not proper mathematics. You need to simplify. You need to rationalize the denominator. Multiply by root 2. So now at this point, I have cosine of 45 is root 2. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. And then also, I need to punch that into my calculator, and I did not write that down. I don't have a calculator available, so could you guys do that on your own? Divide root 2 by 2 and write that decimal down. Let's move on to the next section. The directions say we will use the right triangle trigonometry to find the value of the variables. So in problem number 1, I need to find the value of x. I am given the angle 36. X is opposite 36. I'm also given this side 7, which is adjacent. So let's look at our trig functions. So, ka, toa. Do you see that I have adjacent and opposite? So I need to use the one that has the O and the A, which would be tangent. Tangent. Theta is your angle, and my angle is 36 degrees. I need O over A, so x over 7. Now this is just like any other algebra problem. Your goal is to get x alone. So you need to move the 7 by multiplying by 7. And you're really doing an inverse operation. The inverse operation of divide is multiply. 7's cancel. Okay, now take your calculator, take 7 times tangent 36. So I'm going to hit 7. I'm going to hit probably my tangent button and then 36 to get that answer. At that point now, I'm getting 5.1. Make sure you try this on your calculator. Some calculators, you might have to go 36 and then hit the tangent button and then times 7. So make sure you check this out with your calculator. If you're having problems and issues, make sure you ask during class tomorrow. I guess x equals 5.1. Let's take a look at number 2. I'm looking for the hypotenuse, and I'm given the side, the leg 12. So 63-degree angle, so across from the 63 is 12, so that would be the opposite. X is the hypotenuse. I label those, that helps me figure out what trig function I'm using. So I'm going to use the O and the H. So I'm going to go with sine, oops. I'm going to use sine of theta, which is the angle, 63 degrees, equals opposite, O, 12 over x. At this point, you're looking and you're saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do that x on the bottom. That's making you uncomfortable. Multiply by x on each side. That way, that x on the bottom is canceled now. And now you have x sine 63 equals 12. Your goal is to get x alone, so now you need to divide by sine 63 and sine 63. The sine 63's cancel. So now, if I punch that in my calculator, I'm going to go 12 divided by, some calculators, you hit the sine and then the 63. Some calculators, you're going to go 12 divided by, then you have to punch the angle first, and then the trig function button. So you need to be checking this out on your calculator, people. Figure out how your calculator works. I would always use the same calculator, that way you don't have to worry about, I can't figure it out. I'm getting 13 and 5/10. Let's take a look at our last problem. This time we're given a hypotenuse, we're given a leg, and we're looking for the angle. So this one has a new twist to it because I'm looking for the angle. So 15 is the hypotenuse. 12 is right next to the x. That's the adjacent. I don't know if anybody was thinking that 15 could be an adjacent, but the hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. So that has to be the hypotenuse 15. All right, this time I have the A and the H. Now I don't have my trig functions in front of me anymore, so I'm going to go so ka, toa, so I can see them, and I see I got an A and an H, so I'm going to use cosine. Cosine. Cosine of theta, which would be the angle, so I'm missing angle X. And then I need adjacent, which is 12, over hypotenuse, which is 15. Your goal is to get the variable by itself. You're solving, so we really want to have this all by itself. Remember how I'm talking about inverse functions in class? When you see square root, inverse function is square. When you see multiply, you do the inverse function divide. When you see cosine, you do the inverse function of cosine, which is cosine inverse, or cosine negative 1. You'll have to use your second button to get to cosine negative 1. So if I write it on this side, I also have to write it on this side. These are going to cancel each other out. I still have my x. I'm looking for it in degrees. I have cosine negative 1, and then I have 12 over 15. So how do you punch that in your calculator? Some calculators, you go use your second to get to your cosine negative 1. They're all above. This would be above, cosine negative 1 would be above regular cosine. And then I would, automatically comes up with a parenthesis, 12 divided by 15, hit equals. I'm getting 36.9 for my angle. Some calculators, you got to go 12 divided by 15, or if you want to write 12 over 15 as a fraction, then you have to hit second, and then cosine negative 1, which is 36.9. So you should be testing these out, guys, seeing if you can come up with 36.9. And then if you're having some problems on how your calculator works, make sure you ask during class tomorrow. Right? You guys have a great evening, and I'll see you tomorrow in class.